On the top row on my computer.
Ready? Okay, Arden, you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. And the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to swear in Vice President Duncan. From what I hear, Ivan and Russ were sworn in on Monday. I'd like to congratulate all three of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to have you still on the board. I'm very pleased. The voters did it right.
Okay. Can you see me?
We can see you just
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Begin. Repeat after me.
Okay.
I do solemnly swear that
I do solemnly swear that
I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
That's it. You are now duly sworn in.
Thank you.
All right.
If you could both sign his oath and make it official. Sign the oath on the podium and make it official.
I'll sign it right now. Sign it, go ahead.
Wahoo!
Yay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We now have a full board. Hey, there you go, Russ. Congratulations to you too.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll wait till Randy gets back up there and then we're going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. And when he sits down, Dory, you can do roll call.
Thank you. President Wright.
Here.
Vice President Duncan.
Here.
Here, I see him. Director Grasha.
Here.
Director Martin.
Here.
And Director Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Pinckney, do you want to do the rules of procedure now, please?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So the Board of Directors adopted rules of procedure for conducting its meetings. And I'll just read some of the key provisions of those rules of procedure. First, all noticed meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to comments made at the meeting of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. All questions and remarks should be addressed to the president as the presiding officer. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on that subject shall have been given an opportunity to so speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. In order to ensure the orderly progress of board meetings, the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Okay, now next part of the meeting is the public input. Do we have anybody there online for public input?
There are no members of the public on the line.
Okay, thank you. Employee recognition, we have, December was a slow month in hiring, but we do have a 17th anniversary with Rolando and a 4-year anniversary with Amanda. Hey, Amanda, I saw you. Hey, congratulations, Amanda. Guy, how time flies, huh?
I can't believe that. Yeah.
I know. And you have your own little room now. No cubicles, no nothing falling on your head anymore.
I know.
Okay, so then the next item is action items. Number 2, resolution number 2020-21, amending resolution 2020-06, a revision to Mission Springs Water District personnel rules and regulations. General Manager.
Thank you. Every year we, whoa, what happened?
I am having issues. Hold on.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Every year, let me just provide you with a brief introduction. Of course, every year we attempt to upgrade our employee manual. This year, you've actually had it in front of you several times. This change basically is what represents what the new laws are in place this year. And we've got everyone here to be able to answer your questions, and you can take a look at them over the weekend. And Oriana will go through the presentation today and kind of give you a general outline of what changes were done to the manual as a result of the new regulations. So with that, Oriana, our wonderful human resources person.
Wow, kind. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, board members. As you know, we try to keep our new employee handbook updated, consistent with California and federal laws. Every year, beginning of the year, the laws become effective. So this year, in order to remain compliant and also to clean up a little bit of the language, we have made minor adjustments. I do have an Exhibit A that it was routed in your packet. I can go over some of the items. It's about 6 pages. Is there a particular question in any of those items? No questions?
I had one question about.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Maybe I'll have to ask it Monday. The placement.
Yeah, sorry, I had to go to my phone, get that silence. But yeah, go ahead, Director Grosh. I asked your question. Sorry.
Hold on. Okay, here we go. If I can find it. It was the placement of the word illegal harassment. And, my instincts tell me that we should remove the word legal harassment. Harassment is harassment, whether it's legal or illegal. And as somebody that has experienced it from employees in this district, I think it should be carefully looked at by legal counsel.
I am looking for that particular, which rule are you referring to, Director?
Well, as I read over it earlier,
okay.
I believe
that's interesting.
I believe it's Rule 33A. The second line has unlawful harassment.
There you go. That sounds like the one. So it should be against district policy to harass, for instance, interfering with a contractual relationship in the area of housing and so forth. If an employee of the district tries to interfere with the contractual relationship in a landlord-tenant relationship, that should be against district policy, whether it's legal or not. And as someone who experienced exactly that by a highly placed person within our district's hierarchy, I'm offended that this district would somehow codify allowing district employees to harass public officials.
Mr. Pinkney, can you answer his question about the term unlawful harassment?
I don't think that's a problem making that change.
Okay. So just take out the word unlawful? Okay.
Will do. Thank you, Director.
Anybody else, any of the other board members have any concerns about doing that? Okay, hearing none then. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Oriana, thanks.
No, and any other questions? Any of the board have any other questions or concerns?
Okay, Director, Director Martin? Sorry. No, okay, I got it. Vice President Duncan, any questions? I don't know, I can't see him. Where is he?
Me either.
Okay, now I can see him. What, did you say something, Randy? No?
Oh.
No, thank you.
No. Okay, Director Sewell?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Oriana, anything else you have?
No, we do plan on bringing the handbook to the board for approval on a regular basis. We want to make sure that we keep our updates timely and compliant as the law passes. And right now with what's going on, there is a lot of changes rapidly coming. So it may be 6 months before you see an update. It may be a month or two. We are striving to keep up to date and be compliant.
Okay, great.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if board members didn't get a chance to read the whole thing or have questions on Monday, we'll go through this again on Monday. So
I wanted to add one thing after my.
oh, okay. Director Grasha.
I just wanted to say that the gist of these changes appear to be appropriate, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to voice my displeasure about the actions of one employee at one time in our history. Thank you.
Okay, item number 3, annual report of capacity fees and related capital expenditures.
All right, Matt. Yeah, Matt's here. He can answer any questions. You see this every year. It's a routine annual exercise we go through, a process. Government Code 6606 B requires that we, utilize all the connection fees that we collect, and this is our way of reporting annually. That balance is there and document it so that we're in compliance with this requirement. Matt, did you have anything more that you wanted to add to that?
No, I can answer any questions. And sorry, your audio was skipping in and out, but I didn't know if you mentioned that these have been sent to and reviewed by DVBA, and they have responded in concurrence with them. We have never included that letter in the board packet, but we intend to add it to the packet for the Monday meeting, so it will be in there if anybody would like to see it.
Didn't we also notify the Building Industry Association, and they didn't respond, did they?
Correct, that's right.
So
They did or didn't, Arden, respond?
did not.
Did not, okay. Okay, Director Sewell, do you have any questions on item 3? I can't see all of you guys on the same page, so
No
just speak up.
question.
Okay, okay, thanks. Vice President Duncan? Questions on number 3?
Yes. No questions. No, thank you.
Okay, Director Martin? I can see you now, Russ. Okay, sorry.
No questions.
No questions. Okay, we will move on. Okay, number 4, election of officers for 2021. I think we do that on Monday. Would anybody have a comment?
You would have been right in assuming that I had no questions on that. I appreciate your answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just me today. Sorry. Do you have any? You don't have any? Okay, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. Just speak up, folks, if I miss you. Thank you. Okay, item 4, election of officers for 2021. Anybody have anything to say? We'll just do that on Monday.
Monday.
Okay, Monday it is. Number 5, Mission Springs Water District Regional Water Reclamation Facility. Arden, do we have any?
Yes, well, we have,
Report on-
we have Steve Ledbetter here today, and he's got a presentation. We have, we started out on this project quite some time ago, and we've given you a presentation that gave you a pretty detailed history of what went on. But one of the things that we did do early on was Mike Thornton, and I think Steve was in the background, the engineer you're going to listen to today. And they came up with a source of about $8 million in grants through the Small Communities Grant Program. And so we structured this entire project so that it would clearly qualify for that grant. And it still does, and we are talking to the state, and Steve will get into the details of where we are with that. We have 3 different options at this point. And this is a lot of good news today. So we had that $8 million. And then in the process of talking to the state, approximately a year ago, I don't know, or more, Danny or Steve might correct me, but we ran across, we've always known about the Groundwater Grant Program, and that's another $8 million pot of money that we can look to. And in our visits with the state, they basically encouraged us to reconsider that. And we said, well, originally you told us that we only could get $8 million total from that program. And they said, but this is a different program. So we immediately looked at how we qualified for it, and we qualified quite well because we do such a good job of monitoring, and because we have some very specific, well-qualified projects for a groundwater protection program that ideally matches this. And not only that, but since that time, and maybe a year or 2 ago, the state has changed their rules and now allows us to consider grants for the abatement of the on-site work, which means that we can go in and do this project from stem to stern, and we can get it all done. And at the end of the day, we should have all 400 of these septic tanks abated and connected to the sewer system. So we are in the process of talking to them. So that gives us, but Steve and Danny are going to go through what 3 options we have in looking at going forward with those 2 $8 million pots of money. That a $16 million in grant would be welcome. Not only that, but in the process of looking at this, we have realized, and they have informed us, that the loan for the SRF, which is the other money that we will use, is at a historic low of 0.9%. So if we are going to look for funding for these programs, this is the ideal time to do it. And that equates to a major benefit to the district. With that said, Steve has, I believe you have a short or a PowerPoint presentation, Steve?
No PowerPoint today. You're just going to walk through a couple of the options that the state has offered the district.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you having me on to give you an update. Arden, Mr. General Manager, thank you for teeing up the item. So as Arden mentioned, the state has offered the district to get funding, or the opportunity to seek funding out of the Groundwater Grant Program for the septic to sewer portion of the project. So for the area M2 collection system, the state's offering up to $8 million in grant funding, additional grant funding for that portion of the project. However, the state is requiring that we would abate the septic tanks. The district would take on the work of abating the septic tanks as part of the program, which has been typically left to the actual individual property owner to take on. The reason why that was left out of the program initially is because in previous years, the state has not allowed private work to be completed with state grant funding. The district has been able to take on some of that work with federal grant dollars through, I believe, USDA, through at least one of the old groundwater quality protection areas, but it was left out of this program. So what the ask is from the state board is if you want to get $8 million in additional grant funding, you need to take on the roughly $1.5 million cost of abating the 400 septic tanks. So I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor to consider taking on that on-site abatement to get the additional $6.5 million, excuse me, in grant funding. Any questions on that so far before I jump into the options? I see a couple hands.
Vice President Duncan, you had your hand up first.
I may be ahead of you here, Steve, and I'm all for 8 million anytime somebody can hand it to me. If we get this grant and we abate, let's say, Mission Lakes Country Club, you know, is somebody from another section of town going to come back and say, now wait a minute, I had to pay for mine, you know, why is this person getting it free? And it looks like I'm frozen. I don't know if I am or not.
No, I heard.
You're okay.
Okay. Yeah, I heard everything. That's a bit of a loaded question. There certainly is that potential from the public outcry regarding that, but this opportunity is specific to the grants that the district chases. So sometimes on the federal side, this may or may not be allowed, and sometimes on the state side, it is or isn't. So we have an opportunity to do that now. So I wouldn't want to forego that. But that is something we need to manage from a public outreach perspective going forward, if and when we get questioned.
Can I add something to?
If it's, you know, kosher for us to say, look, this money fell in our lap. We had these septic tanks that needed to be abated at the time. These were the federal guidelines. We followed them. You know, I'm all for it. I'm just wondering if there could be a potential backlash.
Randy?
Yes.
Yeah, and Steve, and maybe Danny might know this better than me, but when I got here, some of the previous grants for 11, I think, did cover the abatement because some of the money was federal.
Yeah.
So this has already happened.
It did. Yes, it did. The whole, I think it was AD 11, you're right. The whole AD 11 took care of connection charges and connecting the on-site work. And now are you talking, Steve, are you talking the on-site work and the connection charges, or either or?
No, just physically removal of the septic tank. They would still be required to pay their connection fee.
Okay.
So, I mean, and so you've got that issue now. And the other issue is this money is specifically for, I mean, we have to abate the sewers in this particular area because they are not just disadvantaged communities. It's a severely disadvantaged community, of which
it's a groundwater protection.
Mission Lakes Country Club doesn't qualify.
I just threw that out there for an example, but okay. All right, that answers my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Director Grasha?
Yeah, Arden almost got my question answered there, or at least reminded me of what my question is. Let's try to help me drag this out of my the depth of my brain here. On the assessment district that the voters approved, there was conditions in place that had to be met before the assessment district takes effect, and I'm not remembering 100% what that condition was. It had something to do with federal funding to help pay for the infrastructure, I guess. Is that ringing a bell with anybody? And if okay, and so does this help get us there, or everybody looks stone cold?
I think he's talking about Dos Palmas and hooking the disadvantaged community up to the regional plant, and isn't that the first $8 million we're getting for that? Is that what he's talking about?
Well, I'll take a shot at answering that. The district can't issue the bonds for the assessment district unless we have the grant funding in place to match it. So this program is bringing in the match funding and additional funding to go towards the wastewater flow capacity that this would generate that goes through the pipelines and into the treatment plant. So we're getting additional treatment plant out of this program. So yes, it establishes the grant funding in place to match the assessment district to sell the bonds and pay for 100% the M2 collection system and the abatement of the septic tanks. And thereafter, additional grant funding would go towards the treatment plant.
And that sounds like a home run. Now, the next question is, since Mission Lakes doesn't qualify for this, what part of that, well, I guess it doesn't matter, does it? It's not limited to the assessment district in terms of who would qualify. That would be for anybody that would be on any part of the system, not just those assessment districts. Is that true?
No. This is specifically for area M2, which is part of the regional wastewater program.
Okay.
So, Dillon and Avenida, Manzana, and kind of the area northwest of there, if you will, or excuse me, northeast of there.
And we need M2 in order to qualify for the Small Communities Grant Program.
Okay.
Yeah, Arden, that's a good point. The M2 collection system brought in the disadvantaged community component that we needed to qualify for the first 8 million. And then as Arden mentioned, along the way, we got teed up, well, hey, there's another 8 million if you take on the septic abatement portion. So now we're talking about $16 million in grant towards the project, which is very substantial.
Well, this meeting recording is going to be the record, so let's try to think of everything that a homeowner might be asking so that we can refer them back to this, because many of us have fading memories here. So maybe you have some notes that we might make sure we hit all the key points that people that are going to be positively affected and maybe negatively affected. I guess I don't see how that could be the case, but
Okay.
Try to
Thank
get it all done.
Thank you. Director Sewell?
Yeah, just maybe a little bit of clarification. So the cost for us to abate those 400 would be only 1.5 million, but we'd get 8 million in total.
Ballpark, yes, we're still working. We're working with engineering team to finalize that. We're putting together a technical memo that we'll share with the state that finalizes that. But we're roughly looking at around 2,000 to 3,000 per parcel. So with all the soft costs that go into that, administration, contingencies, we think it's going to be right around that number.
And that remainder would go directly to the plant?
Well, yeah, to the project as a whole.
Or
Yeah.
won't also part of it go to also to the connection line or the interceptor?
That is correct. The trunk sewer that will, bring the flows from this area down to the treatment plant.
The Canvance line?
Conveyance line, yes.
Thank you.
Director Martin?
No questions.
Yeah, I think I got you all that time. Just to let you know that LAFCO a couple of years ago designated Mission Lakes Country Club a DUC, which is a disadvantaged unincorporated community. Now, whether that DUC qualifies for that grant, I'm not sure, but LAFCO's got the qualifications for the DUC at this point in time. So, and I think, and our new census is probably going to come out with different stuff anyway next year. Okay, I think I got everybody. Steve, are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Arden, are you have any more questions or comments on that?
No, but I mean, we're sitting here. The one of the issues, and I don't know, Steve, were you going to say anything more about the 3 options that we have?
Yeah, that was kind of part 1, and now I want to talk about part 2 of what the requirements they're stipulating to include the abatement portion.
We don't mean to put you to sleep, but this gets even a little more complicated, but we do have good news.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, President Wright. The state gave us 3 options to take on this work. They said under option 1, we'll condition your grant funding agreement or your SRF funding agreement, excuse me, to have to connect 75% of the parcels within the first year on the resident's dollar. And if you can commit to that, we'll give you the $8 million. There's some concern with the feasibility of being able to connect 75% or 300 of the 400 parcels that currently have septic tanks within the first year. And if we were unable to achieve that, then it would impact the district's ability to get grant funding in future rounds. So there's certainly some concern with taking that on or putting that onto the property owners. In addition, there's been a lot of discussion, and the general manager can weigh in here if I missed anything, but we're certainly concerned with requiring a disadvantaged community that's impacted by COVID to come around in the next year and a half and tell them, now you got to connect, abate your septic tank and pay $2,000 more out of pocket to connect to us, and then send out notices. And I think there's bad publicity that could happen if that were the case. So we do have some concerns with that option, and we would be looking at one of the other options. Director Grasha, you had a question?
If we were to accept that challenge, to the homeowner, I've forgotten the number, but it's an extreme number as far as I remember. The number of those homes are tenant occupied, as I recall. So you have investor-owned properties that are being rented that the renter is not really, the resident is not going to be as impacted by that decision as a much smaller number of actual property owners. I wonder if we could look into that and figure out if we could have that number of people mad at us here going into the near future, because there's a balance.
Yeah, protecting the groundwater is probably the biggest.
And I agree with that. But I don't think it's as scary politically as it sounds, because as I recall, it's something like 65 or 75% are renters. So
I think that's all over town. Yeah, that's all over the place. That's not just these.
It could well be, and I know
we've done many of them.
My new division, I'll bet the numbers are much higher than that. So
okay. Thanks, Mr. Ledbecker. Go.
The other concern is that in past projects of similar nature on the groundwater quality protection program, the districts only had I want to say between a 30 and 40% connection rate within the first year. So we haven't been able to even achieve that in previous rounds. So there is some concern on just the feasibility of getting everyone to connect within the first year, because we haven't successfully done that in the past.
Yeah, well, I guess that was my question. I didn't get to that part. That was actually the gist of it. Can we, do we have the authority to force them to connect and put it on their property tax bill to pay over time the connection fee if they can't do it out of pocket that first year? Would that, if we have that authority, would that allow us to qualify for that funding?
We did talk about that with staff, and Mr. Friend may be able to help me out on this one, but the district does have, would send out the notice that would require connection, I believe, within 60 or 90 days. The property owner would have the ability to request a 60-day extension thereafter. So they'd have, in essence, between 1 and 5 months to connect. If they didn't connect at that point, we would reach out to the regional board, who would then send out notices that the residents would be required to connect at that point. I don't know when fees actually kick in, or if, I don't recall if the regional board has the authority to assess fees. Maybe Arden or Danny could help me with that one.
Okay, today is just an update, and we have a lot of time for those kind of questions, Steve. So maybe we'll let Steve Ledbecker keep moving on. This is just an update. So it's going to take a while, Mr. Grasha, or Director Grasha, so to get to that point to where your questions will be real appropriate. So, okay, Mr. Ledbecker.
Okay.
Whatever your last name is, Steve.
The other option, so they gave us 2 other options. Option 2, they said, we'll leave your application alone as is without the abatement, and we'll issue the initial funding agreement. And during the review process, the 2 or 3 month review process where the agreement gets finalized, we'll roll in the abatement portion, or we'll modify everything to include the abatement portion. And then the third option would be to update the application materials now for the district to put together a technical memo that outlines the change in the cost of the SRF application and justifies that the district is willing to take on this work, and the work is covered under our existing CEQA document, our environmental impact report, and basically have that rolled into the initial agreement from the beginning. I had a long discussion with the state staff at the State Water Resource Control Board this afternoon, and there is no difference really between those two options other than the complexity of when the information gets rolled in. We were hoping that there was a way to include the abatement portion and not slow down the timeline to getting our SRF funding so we can break ground and start building, actually constructing the treatment plant. But based on the discussions today, there is no real time benefit for either subsequent two options, options 2 and 3, that were offered by the state. So what we're evaluating at the staff level is we're really looking at option 3 as the most viable option, where we would put together a technical memo outlining the details of what it would take to include the septic abatement. The state would review that, confirm it, and then update our SRF application and issue us an initial funding agreement, or excuse me, the draft funding agreement that includes what this new program looks like. We've spoken with our CEQA consultant, and he has confirmed that the abatement portion is covered under the existing EIR. So we're confident that that will pass the state. We'll just have to have some more time for the state to review it and confirm it on their end. But he has confirmed that with us.
That can be the most time consuming too, is if we would have had to go back and actually perform another environmental impact report. But we don't have.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that, just to put it into perspective, we submitted our application in June of 2019. It took the state, and we certified our EIR in August of 2019. It took the state until July of 2020 of this year to deem our environmental as complete and accepted. So that was our biggest concern, is it took them a year to improve our environmental. And if we had to go back out and do some sort of addendum and go back through that review and approval process, it would be a dramatic hit to the timeline, which is where we were kind of considering an option 1, where we didn't take the work on, what will just be conditioned to do so. But subsequent discussions with, like I said, our CEQA consultant and with the state, we think we can make up a lot of that time. And it's just to be more or less a 1 or 2 month delay until we get our funding agreement. That's my update on the options. I'm happy to dive into them a little bit more. I'm trying to just hit the highlights because it is a kind of a complex process, and I don't want to put you to sleep,
Okay.
as Arden says.
Go ahead, move forward. If anybody has a question, I guess like Randy does. I think he does. He turned his mic on.
Just one quick comment. You don't have to go into it. Presentation is everything. If we can go out to our customers and say, look, instead of forcing somebody to do this or threatening them to say, you know what, here's your opportunity to have all the on-site work paid for, free of charge to you. All you have to do is put the connection fee on the sewer bill, pay it over 20 years, 30 years, whatever the bond is on that. I think most people would jump on it.
I agree, but I would remind you that I think just about every one of those are in my voting division, and they'll be voting in 2 years. So sounds like another one of your previous plans.
These sewer projects have been going on for.
I know.
We've all been there.
You've got it all narrowed right like a laser beam. Gosh. Okay.
We've all been there. It's always been an election year. Okay, Mr. Ledbetter, go for it. Finish what you're doing.
That's all I have. I appreciate your time today, President Wright. Arden, anything else you'd like me to discuss or review with the overall treatment plant update?
No, as usual, it's always fun, but I mean, you know, to recap this, I mean, we're looking at $16 million in grant money and a 0.9% loan, which is tantamount to another, I don't know, Matt, help me out, 3 million, 4 million in grants. You know, this is an opportunity that we don't want to miss. And the real major issue here is how much time delay are we going to experience? And so we are, how shall I say it, looking at ways in which we can make sure that there is as much tenacity on the state's part to get through this bookwork as we have on our side. And I'm working on some ways to make some connections regarding this. In fact, I've even emailed Joaquin, told him, you know, happy holidays, and invited him to talk to us. But I can tell you that I've been through this dozens and dozens of times. And part of the thing that really was noticeable was that the state actually was encouraging us to do this. I've never seen them do that. The other thing is we actually have 2 other legal authorizations to make people connect. And one is the United Building Code and also our own water and sewer ordinances. And in addition to the Porter Cologne, which sets up the requirement and allows the state to come in and help us. We have a partner here, that's the regional board. So, and I don't blame Director Gracia for that. It's an excellent issue. We've been talking about it at the staff level. You know, what can we do to best sell this thing and get the public outreach out there so that it's a very positive thing for this community. And we'll do that. Danny, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I had one question. Go ahead.
Director. Go ahead.
No.
Hey, Director Martin, do you have any comments or
No,
questions?
nothing.
That's not my phone, is it? That's, I
Yeah.
think. Well, you're on mute, Russ. It's not you. Okay, so.
Madam President,
Pardon.
just to answer what General Manager Wallum said, I'm happy to give background. I raised my hand. I wasn't sure. I didn't realize that I was on mute on my own. I thought the group was on mute. But
Okay, I thought you just didn't want to talk, Danny. Okay.
no, I'm happy to answer questions. It sounds like you want to get through this today. I know we have a short agenda, so there's opportunity if you'd like. I can give background on all the items that have been discussed if that's needed, so that if there's anything else that wants to be asked on Monday. So please let me know.
Okay, well, if you got some good information for us, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. Back when Vice President Duncan was asking about the concern of any fallout, we have, as been discussed today, have been successful in mostly state grant funding. In the past, when we did 8011 and 8012, there were a few times that we've got federal money. Federal money could be used on private property. We were successful in abating two areas in 8011 that were paid for entirely everything on property except the tank abatement. We administered the actual contract. There wasn't as much fallout as you would think, as far as why did they get it and we didn't. Unfortunately, we were very good in communicating with public outreach. It was only federal money that could be used. We were successful again when 8012 formed in Area E, and we also did another 700 homes of on-site septic abatement as a contract that we handled. So in this case, we were surprised when they said, hey, there's a hook. There's an EPA federal component to this, so that's why we're able to use this state funding. And we feel pretty successful. I'm connected pretty well with what's happening at the High Desert Water District. They're doing 4,000 connections. That's why we use the number north of 2,500 to 3,000. And that's how we arrived at that preliminary number of 1.5. But it's a great way to get an additional, the delta, which is $6.5 million towards our project. The other part was why we're looking at not doing this at option 1. is Steve threw some numbers out there, but we've always been south of 50% the success rate of actually getting homes connected, regardless of what we have, the items that Arden spoke to, Port of Cologne Act, the water code, and our ordinance that allows us to connection to any single family dwelling, multifamily dwelling on less than a half acre within 100 feet of an available sewer connection. So with that, what staff had looked at, and Brian and Matt and Arden and I talked in our executive meeting, was whether you're a homeowner or a tenant, COVID has taken a lot of folks out of employment. COVID has created rental clauses where you can't get kicked out of your home, so even the owners of properties aren't getting revenue. So what that looks like, we don't know what the future is to be on the whole COVID front, but those are some of the reasons why we don't want to necessarily get involved with what would the state do if we can't meet that 75% connection rate. So those are some of the concerns, but just providing some background, there has been, like I said, a lot of opportunity to do this in the past without much fallout. So we did, out of all the areas, 4 areas, and that was less than, that's not even 25% of the areas that we actually did build sewers to. There was some, I think I was confused on some of the items that Director Grasha was saying, as far as the timing. Steve mentioned that when we're successful and we actually are told that we're going to be approved for grant money, the 50% match that would offset the residential match from the assessment, we do a cash collection period. At that point in time, we give the property owners an opportunity to pay up front if they choose to. And for those that don't, they automatically go on the tax roll for the duration of the actual assessment. I believe it's 20 or 30 years. I don't know exactly in this case. We've got a couple of different assessment districts going on currently. But anyhow, for those properties that are improved, it does include their connection fee. So they do have that opportunity to have that put over on their tax roll. So in this instance, this severely disadvantaged community of the Dos Palmas area, the 405 parcels being contemplated, they would have no additional costs other than what's being obligated from the current assessment district that's formed. So I tried to cover the broad range of, I think, all the questions that were asked or concerns that have been mentioned. So if I missed something or there's additional information, please let me know.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, so yeah, we can have more questions on Monday if you guys would like. Thank you, Steve Ledbetter, for your presentation. Thank you. And I think the fact that we call it our groundwater protection project, I think that holds a lot of weight with our community, and they all understand what we're trying to do. We have never had any issues before on that. Okay.
Madam President,
pardon?
You can see, but Director Grasha had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see it. Thank you. Yes, Director Grasha.
When this was developing over the last, recent months, there has been some concern, I think, from Matt McHugh about moving fast enough to take advantage of the low interest rates on bonds that we would potentially have to engage. And I wondered if that's something that we still need to keep I don't know if interest rates are going to stay where they're at for the next year and a half. I would assume they might stay where they are for the next 3 to 5 months. And I don't have a crystal ball, certainly, but it seems like we might keep that issue in mind. And also, I was going to bring this up during director's comments.
Well, you want to wait and do it then?
Well, it kind of is the same question. There was some talk about needing a new structure for some of the management of the district. And that would have to, I'm concerned that we might lose that opportunity as well on that subject. So
I don't, okay, well, maybe we can talk about that at director's comments. I'm not sure what you're talking about. So anyway, okay. So we'll move on at this point. We'll move on to number 6, which are not number 6, consent agenda, and which is the approval of the minutes, which is number 6. Number 7 is the register of demands. 8 The 2021 Board of Directors meeting schedule. I just want to draw your attention to the November 2021 meeting, which would normally be on Veterans Day, the 11th of November. So on our schedule, it's now made for Wednesday, the 10th for that particular month would be our study session. So on Monday, when we vote on this, everybody just check your calendars and make sure that that works on your schedule. The November 10th, Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, instead of Thursday, November 11th, 2021 for the study session. It's in your packet. Just wanted to draw that out. So now we'll move on to, anybody have anything? Let me see. Vice President Duncan, anything on the consent agenda? Would you like to pull anything off of there? Director Grasha? I can't hear you. Okay.
How's that? I'm sorry. That's on
number 6, 7, 8, or 9. And it's number 8, the one I was talking about.
nothing.
Okay, Director Sewell.
No, thank you.
Director Martin. I can't see you. Yes. Just go ahead, motion. I have to change my page in order to see you. So no.
That's all right. It says no.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Did I get everybody? I think I did. I think I asked you too, Randy. Okay, correspondence. Number 10. General Manager.
No, just the one thing, and just a nice thank you letter from Dana. And of course, we always are pretty good and generous with food now. And you know that I also do a charity event every year for them. But that's my own thing that I kind of do. And I, nothing could be more important, I think, right now than I talked to Dana just a couple of weeks ago and a couple of times, and he said that, their lines have doubled during this pandemic. So, it's always been a wonderful charity, and it's always been run well. Didn't Director Brown, wasn't he originally in charge of this?
Yes, that was his job when he was on our board. He was the executive director, I guess, or whatever the title is for food.
I think they were different organizations.
It could be, yeah.
Well, it was yes, you're right. It was something of the desert.
He was family services.
I was executive director of Food Now for about 6 weeks in the 80s, right after it got started. And I know then there was one started in Desert Hot Springs that was a separate organization. And believe me, it was a very short time. It was an interim situation. I think 1989. You can go back and look at that.
It's a good organization. You did well getting that going.
Okay. Thank you. Number 11, director's reports. Could anybody want to go today? Director Martin, let me see if I can find you again. Would you like to go today?
Monday.
Monday, okay. Vice President Duncan?
Monday, and we've lost most people from here in the building, at least video.
You lost
No,
most people in video? Did we? Okay. Once they've done their part, they leave. Director Sewell?
No, I just.
Yes, I just have the one. November 19th, I did attend virtually the Palm Springs Economic Summit. And this has been one of my favorite events in the past. But this year with COVID, it was a little bit tough. They had some technological issues. And then they normally hand out a big program with specific stats for every city and the valley and region. And that has not been released yet. So the thing I was really looking forward to is hopefully coming in an email around the beginning of the year, but so not too much to report.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I don't see Director Duncan. Randy, did you say Monday too? You want to do yours on Monday? Yeah, okay. I'll do my JPIA board meeting on Monday also. And that's all the ones that I have on here for reports. Okay, general manager's report.
Okay, thank you. You know, we're working on this. You can go and of course ask any questions. You know, our flows are pretty consistent at the plant, you know, which is in the report. But I'd like to start out today by saying thank you and thanks to the board. You were all there. That shows such good support to the employees, and that means a lot to the employees. But I also I didn't have a chance on during the event to thank the committee, the employee committee, for, you know, organizing this thing. And that committee consisted of starting with Oriana Huppert, and then Amanda Lucas, Teresa Murphy, Chris Jacobson, Robert Lopez, and David Weaver. I want to give them a special thanks, okay? The only other thing that, I'm going to end up with a short report on the COVID. But we did participate and will continue to participate through the end of this month regarding the Chrome 6 workshop. They have not proposed a standard. There is no standard there now. We're working through the basic finances, the economics of all of these standards. And when we get something together, we'll let you know what, you know, what that response is. And you know, we did watch the workshop, but it was mainly not very eventful. And then the last thing I want to share with you is that, of course, I think you all know that my bride, my wife of 30 years this year, is the director of ICU for Eisenhower. And I asked her last night to kind of give me a report that I could share with you, because there's been quite a spike in the number of cases. In fact, I think it's approximately 30% more than it was at its peak this summer. And it does seem to be spiking. So our decision to go to split schedules, we do not have any reported cases right now. Now that could change tomorrow, of course, but we have been very careful and safe. The employees have been exceptionally safe. So I want to compliment them. And so we don't seem to be in any sort of, we don't seem to have any issues with regard to maintaining the service during this pandemic. And I'm happy to report that we're doing quite well. So thank you. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay. I just noticed now the next one is kind of interesting. The order here is financial report. Matt.
That would be Matt.
You gotta wait till after Arden's report this time.
Yeah, he does have a few things. Well, we got the departments under mine, and so we thought that
I just noticed the difference. That's fine. I just noticed it. Okay. Matt, you're on.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon, everybody, members of the board. A quick financial report, just an update as to kind of what we're reporting on and why. In a minute, I'll share the screen, my screen with you, and we'll go over the June 30, 2020 financial statements for internal purposes. Usually at this time of year, we're having the auditors present the audited numbers for June 30, 2020. That process has been slightly delayed, mostly due to the COVID pandemic and the fact that not only our staff was working from home, but they had attendance issues with their staff as well. But anyway, we're nearing the end, and it is scheduled to be presented to you in January. But in the meantime, I will report to you the same numbers as of June 30th. Also, the internal financial statements, obviously June 30 is a little delayed. At the January meeting, I'll also present internal financial statements through November. And we'll also look at a lot more financial analysis as we go through the mid-year budget process. So a lot more financial information to come, but for now we'll look at the June 30, 2020 financial statements, and hopefully everybody can now see them on their screen. Can you see that?
Number 14, yeah, well, no. My packet ends at 12.
But it should.
I see. Oh, I'm looking over here at my packet. Okay, now I'm looking at the screen. Okay, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the page that we normally review during board meetings, so it should look somewhat familiar to you. Just want to highlight a few things. Again, this is the complete fiscal year for June 30, year ended June 30, 2020. This column here is the difference between our actual and then what we had budgeted for that time period. Obviously, here's the actual, here's the budget, the difference, and then any percentage related to that. And hopefully you can see my pointer so you'll know where I'm looking at. Can you all see my pointer? Okay, good. Yes. All right, so just difference between actual and budget, what we expected to happen during that time period and what actually happened. These positive numbers here are the fact that our actual numbers came in above what we budgeted. Operating revenue was slightly over $1 million ahead of budget. But when you go through the detailed analysis, it looks out of whack here. Why would we be off $1 million, even though that's only 6% of the budgeted amount? It makes sense with 2020 being a warmer year than 2019, and the fact that our production numbers are congruent with that and show that we had increased production due to that warmer climate. And of course, we always budget on the side of being conservative for financial purposes. The other big variance here, $8.5 million less than budget on non-operating revenue. At first, that's a startling number. Why did we miss it by $8.5 million? But literally all of that is related to grant revenue. And we have zero control over when these grants become available and or when we actually receive those grants. We thought that was going to happen during this year. We hoped it would, but it did not, thus this difference. So again, just a quick recap of some budget variances. And real quick, if we go over to the actual column, if we compare June 30, 2020 to June 30, 19 numbers, operating revenues were up about 1.9 million. 1.1 of that was due to water, and about 800,000 and some change was due to sewer. Again, those variances look very much in line with what we expected. Our production numbers from 19 to 20 that you can see in your monthly reports, production was up about 4.8% from 19 to 20. And on top of that, as of January 1, 2020, we implemented the last year of our 5-year rate increase, which was 9.5% on the water side. Thus, the 11.5% that increase represents is just in line with what we expected. And on the sewer side, it's about a 13% increase over prior year. We had a 5% increase implemented at January 1st, 20. And we also had, as we continue our groundwater protection program, connections to the system that are, again, impossible to budget, but happened during the year and were increases over 2019. A couple of other quick notes down in the cash section, midway down. This area here, we show what we started out the year with, total cash position for the district, the change in that position, and then obviously the cash at the end of the year. This negative $253,000 number is not positive, but when you take into consideration the fact that we spent almost $10 million on capital projects, we are producing plenty of cash and maintaining our total cash position for the district while we're undergoing these major capital projects that unfortunately do use the cash. Investment return is not impressive, but it is as expected. This is what we've been seeing. Obviously, last year you see that it was not a whole lot more. And this is the municipal market, mostly treasuries. And so the return on those are fairly low. Although we did earn over a little over $1 million in investment income during this time frame, our return rate is still fairly low. So that wraps up my brief review of these financials, and I can answer any questions that anybody might have. Thank you.
Okay, Director Martin? Yes, no? Vice President Duncan?
He's shaking his head no.
Yeah, you know, Matt, I wouldn't get too wrapped up in those percents. You know, you've done good. You brought in over $1 million in investment return for the district in a market and an economy and the whole world like we have today. We've got to be very prudent investors, and you've done a very good job at that. You know, no risk, very little exposure. So I commend you. I think even though those numbers are way down looks bad on paper, I think you've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Director Grasha?
The $8,147,000, that was anticipated to be something that didn't happen. Can you go?
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just run through that part of it again. That was for that wasn't bonds. That was
Grant.
So we were now. Are we now not anticipating them at all, or are we just gonna? Or are we hoping for them at another time?
Now, when this budget was prepared, we hoped to receive a large portion of the Small Communities program that Mr. Ledbetter mentioned earlier as part of the regional wastewater treatment program. So I believe we estimated that project to be 50% drawdown on that grant through this time frame. And so that's what was included in those budget numbers, but it just, the timing didn't happen. Chances are we'll include that same 8 million and hopefully another 8 million in the next budget. But that is what that variance is due to.
All right. So that money is still, it just maybe not there now, but could be there in the future is I guess what I.
Yes, that's correct. It has not been lost. It's strictly a timing issue.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So in other words, overall, what's your sense here?
Overall, just finances in general?
Yeah.
We had a strong year. Very pleased with how it went. Like I said, we always budget conservatively. That last rate increase put us in a good position financially going forward. And
well, that director's comments pay special attention. I hope to be able to get to something that might change your opinion of me. and that would have to do with that bond. I have some questions about the bonding and future projects. So I don't know.
Okay, Director Sewell. Thank you. Director Sewell.
No questions. Good presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, so I noticed that the general manager's report had, Arden, you have all the PR stuff and whatnot, so there's no report on that, right? It's just all in your general manager's report?
Well, we can have Victoria do a short report. Yes.
I didn't know if she was going to or not. Do you want to do it today or Monday or what? It's not on my agenda. It's just in your report. That's why I was asking.
I think Victoria, did you have anything you wanted to say today?
Well, I mean, I can briefly go over it. I don't mind. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. Well, as you'll see, yes, the general manager's report is the new home for the public affairs report for the last couple of months as well. So just highlighting some past events, we did have our flu shot PPE distribution event on November 18th. We distributed over 200 bags of PPE and over 75 flu shots were administered. And we're hoping, so this was done at the Elks Lodge on Pearson, and we're hoping to partner with Walgreens again, and United Way and Supervisor Perez's office and some of our other local partners for another drive in January at the Walgreens location on Palm Drive. So we're looking forward for that to actually have larger attendance because it would be on Palm Drive as opposed to far off in Pearson. The other event, which we did briefly talk about, maybe, I'm not quite sure which meeting, but I remember we did discuss it, was the Cabot's Museum virtual water tasting event. And that was very well attended. President Wright was there, Director Martin, Brian Mason, and myself attended. And of course, there were members of the public there as well. I did want to point out that the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting Competition, which normally takes place in March, it has been postponed until June. Their hope is with the vaccine that they still may be able to hold an in-person tasting event. So it's definitely still happening. It's just going to be in a different time. That's mainly it that I wanted to draw attention to. The standard monthly reports for CD water counts as well as our digital advertising are also found in the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Victoria. I know. Let's see. Anybody have any questions for Victoria? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next report would be District Council's report.
Yes, we will go into closed session today, and it will be on conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. And that's one case, RIC 2003782, George Padilla and Sharon Marino versus Mission Spring Water District. And my partner, Tom Slovak, has joined us, and so he'll be going into closed session with us.
Thank you. Director's comments. Vice President Duncan.
Yeah, real quick, just want to say congratulations to, well, we'll start with Ivan, who had a really easy win. No contest. I've been there a couple of times. That's the best way to go. And then also to Russ, who got into obvious sign wars. But you done good. Like Nancy said, I think the voters have realized that the board is doing a good job, even though we've got some problems, but we're on top of things, and the voters know it. So, congratulations, and that's all I have.
Thank you, thank you, Director Martin.
No, right back at you, Randy. Congratulations, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
Thank you, Director Grasha.
Yeah, I would like that at some point in the near future, I would hope that we could schedule another meeting on the subject of a potential new structure for the district. I'm concerned about interest rates skyrocketing over the next maybe 6 or 8, 10 months, a change in the economic situation. And, I know you guys have a lot better information than I do, but if that's a concern for us to, consider in potentially moving forward with that kind of a project, I think we should at least give staff some direction on a potential location so that they can start putting together some ideas in terms of cost estimates and whether or not the district, the board wants to actually move forward with such a thing. Just sent an email to the general manager and Danny and Brian Macy, something regarding what another neighboring district has done. And they built a new critical services facility. And I know I'm concerned about building a new administration building and the way that might, appearance that might give the public. But there's certain things that go on at this district that are absolutely incompatible with what we have now in our admin center. I think that the board has an opportunity to move forward at the sewer treatment plant. And I know that unboxes a whole bunch of little problems. So I think that we should at least discuss a location for one, not necessarily an actual, building and whatnot, but at least give them some kind of idea. Because after examining what information I was able to develop, I think the location at the sewer treatment plant is an excellent opportunity, and I'd like the rest of the board to be able to spend some time thinking about that. And it would mean we'd have to move some things around, but it would save us millions, I think, or at least close to $1 million for sure, for property that we don't have to acquire. And I know that there are people in the district, employees that are now working out of trailers, and I don't want to be on a board. I'd rather have the folks all housed properly and appropriately. And I think that a new critical services support center would be a way to move that ball forward a little bit. But building a new administration center, I'm a little afraid of that terminology. So there you have it.
Okay, that's probably a good idea for a workshop after the first of the year sometime. So we'll work on that one.
All right, good.
Hey, Director Sewell.
Yes, wanted to echo the general manager's comments. A big thank you to the holiday committee. Was good to have a holiday party even through these circumstances. So thank you again, and just wanted to say that I had an excellent team captain, Oriana. We had a lot of fun in our group.
Okay, I just like to say we had Victoria and we had a lot of fun in our group too. so thanks. Thank you all, for that. That was a lot of fun. I had my iPad here, my other iPad, and I was with my packet on it, and I had a drop down screen that said a little bit ago that the Palm Springs Walmart has been closed, and it said they didn't know if it was for COVID or not. So I don't know what's going on, folks, but there's an awful lot of stuff going on out there right now. Okay, so it's time to go into close.
Yeah, I'm sorry, close to 9,000 new cases today. And it's off the charts all over. Hard to avoid now. Be careful out there, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, and everybody have a safe holidays. So closed session. So Dory, you want to put us in a room?
I'm on it.
I'm going to need a break. We should take 5 minutes.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, we will take a 5-minute break then.
Welcome back.
Cole waiting for us, huh?
I was.
So the board met in closed session on item 15, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, case number RIC 2003782, George Padilla and Sharon Moreno versus Mission Springs Water District. There's no reportable action taken.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, people, thank you very much. Have a, I'll see you Monday. So, meeting adjourned.